Hey everybody, this is John. This is John's Long Box. This is a treat for me because this was supposed to be the very first video that I did on this channel, but because of the way my boxes were just scattered about, I couldn't find it. So now that I'm organizing my comics in the my comic book room, I was able to find this. And why did I want to do this first? Because this was the very first comic I ever got. This is it. This is not the actual comic. The actual comic is long destroyed and thrown out. I didn't destroy it and I didn't throw it away. But this, I bought another copy. But this, of course, is the Fantastic Four, 187, 30 cents, 1977. Okay, and you can see the art is by George Perez and Dave Cockrum. George Perez, as I've mentioned in a few videos, is arguably the greatest comic book superhero artist with John Byrne. They On one day I'll say John Byrne, the next day I'll say George Perez, whereas John Byrne has that leg up because he's also a great writer. And then the inking is done by Dave Cockrum, who, as you may or may not know, was the original artist on the new X-Men. You know, the Cyclops, Storm, Nightcrawler X-Men that we all know and love. I love these faces. That's just so wonderful. And I just must have stared at this cover over and over again. You see, there's Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, Sue Storm Richards, the Invisible Woman, or she was the Invisible Girl back then, Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, Ben Grimm, the Thing. And who is this, you might ask? Well, you should know him. We've all seen the Black Panther. This is Ulysses Claw, otherwise known as Claw. That's what he looked like in the comic books. This is his sonic weapon, and he is a being made out of sound. So instead of flesh and blood and muscle like you and I, he is made out of solidified energy, specifically sound. And this vibranium alloy sonic claw weapon, he can make like solid energy constructs. And then you see these legs. No, it can't be him. This is something you don't see anymore. Dialogue balloons on covers. This is just something of a bygone age. Here she's being trapped by claw sonic energy. Trouble times two. Who's this green-legged man, you might ask? Or woman? I'm not telling you. Okay. This is the first time I've opened this comic since at least 1993 when I put all my comics in storage. So this is just a lovely stroll down memory lane for me. And here we go. That's Len Wein, creator of Swamp Thing and Wolverine. A tremendous Marvel. Oh, just a tremendous writer, Marvel or DC. He wrote some classic DC Swamp Thing. George Perez is the artist, and Joe Sinnott is his inker. Dave Cockrum did the cover, but Joe Sinnott is doing the interior inking. And who's Joe Sinnott? He was the co-creator of Captain America with Jack Kirby. He is one of the original comic book artists, and George Perez would be like a second or third generation in that years have gone by. George Perez is a relative newcomer at this point, and Joe Sinnott is the old guard. He's been doing comic book art since the 40s. Okay, and Glynis Wynn is the colorist. Joe Rosen is the letter. Glynis Wynn, the in this period the art is done with by hand with paintbrush and pen. So there's the Fantastic Four. Who is that? That's Franklin. That's Reed and Sue's child, who looks like a dwarf rather than a child with the belt and everything. It's just funny. I love this round head on thing, and he's piloting. Who is this? Who is this? Come on, everybody. You know who that is. That's Agatha Harkins. If you've seen the WandaVision, that's what she looks like in the comics. And let's look at this Fantastic Four, 1977. Look, George Perez was a big Kirby fan, or still is. George Perez is still alive. He just retired from comics because, as he said, comics are no fun anymore. So here, all this machinery, definitely an homage to Jack Kirby, and the fact that he has Jack Kirby's original inker working with him just helps. Is the pogo plane going into the Baxter building? I just love all this. Here they are walking in to their headquarters. Just look how big and muscular Johnny Storm looks. And if you remember, I did a John Byrne X-Men. That John Byrne X-Men. What's wrong with my brain tonight? I did a John Byrne Fantastic Four, The Mask of Doom, and you could see how he made Johnny Storm like physically regress into a teenage, and it just bothered me because this is my first, not only my first comic book, not only my first Fantastic Four comic book, my first comic book. So this is how I always picture Johnny Storm, just a physically intimidating man, and then to have John Byrne turn him back into like a 15-year-old because he was trying to, bring Fantastic Four back to the. It just bothered me. It's the same thing. Johnny Storm's using his belt buckle to call the elevator, just like he did in that Mask of Doom. The elevator going by. She's talking about the. If I don't know who. Yeah, Nicholas Scratch was her son. As I dropped the phone, Nicholas Scratch. They believe Nicholas Scratch is dead. Of course, he's magical and can't be killed very easily. So she believes that her son is dead and he was a bad guy and he led the Salem 7. This is the mid 70s was always witchcraft and Satan and Rosemary's Baby and all that cheesy supernatural stuff. There's just good character development. Them walking around, the Thing. Holy cow! Who's that? Guy's in here busting his TV. That's the Impossible Man. The Impossible Man is a being from the planet Pop-Up. I know. He's been around since the early days of the Fantastic Four. I think since like issue 11 or 10, around there someplace, maybe even 9. And he's a Stan Lee, Jack Kirby creation. All the beings from the planet Pop-Up have the unique ability that they can control their molecules, so they can transform into anything. Anything that the plot desires. The only limitation is they're green and purple whenever they transform. Remember I talked about how there was always like imps that pestered the superheroes? This is the imp that pestered the Fantastic Four. I never particularly cared for him, but I have a fondness for him because, everybody remembers their first car, everybody remembers their first girlfriend. Well, I remember my first comic. And why is Reed's costume all ripped? He had lost his powers, and this was the biggest mystery to me for a long time, because this was before the direct market. This was before comic book stores. I mean, I cannot think of. I got this at a 7-Eleven. I cannot think of where to get back issues. Back issues. Back then, if you didn't get the comic off the newsstand, maybe you found a candy store that held on to comics for too long, like Howie's. That guy just never seemed to return comics. Always had piles and piles of comics. Then there was a cigar store that for some reason always seemed to have comics for like a year. So I would always scour through those places. But if you couldn't find the comic, odds are you didn't get it. And at this time I was a little kid. I didn't know about going to like back issue stores and stuff like that, or comic conventions. So why did Reed lose his powers? They didn't really say, but he lost his powers to I think it was the Salem 7 stripped him of his powers. And there's John Franklin. He's named Franklin because that was Sue's father's name. Reed's father's name was Nathaniel. So here we go, some ads. Super prizes. So if somebody beat up the Impossible Man and smashed him into a TV. Now, as funny as that sounds, the Impossible Man is super powerful. So they're on high alert. So there goes Johnny Storm, flame on. And this is why I thought that he had to say flame on. Because here he yells it, and now he's on fire, and he's streaking through the air. Look, this is such Kirby-inspired buildings and landscapes. I just love that. Jumps out the window. Impossible Man still unconscious. The whole Fantastic Four could barely beat this guy, so he's laying unconscious with his head smashed into the TV. And it's funny, Ben's like, my TV, So they decide they got to do something. So they give Agatha Franklin. Agatha was Franklin's first nanny. I never saw WandaVision, but I don't want to spoil it, but. So I won't finish my thoughts because some of you probably did see it. But let's just say that she's not like she was in WandaVision. I love the leg, the downward camera angle. She's running out. And Reed's going through a period of indecision and doubt. He lost his powers. So never occurs to Susan that her heart-sick husband might not follow her to aid in the search. But by the time she realized that Reed has indeed stayed behind, it's too late. So she just ran off, just assuming that Reed was going to follow and they're going to do some super heroics. But again, Reed, this is like a moment of doubt. It's actually a couple of issues of doubt. This panel, I drew this over and over again in my notebooks as a kid. I just love the trail, so you know that he came back. For some reason, it always just, I felt the force of gravity. I love that panel. I love that panel so much. Here's, I just love the way the face is drawn on. They draw Human Torch now more fiery, but I just love the lines. You know, it looks like Dormammu, the way Ditko drew Dormammu. And here he is, the Thing. Look at that. That's just, you could just see the Kirby influence on that. Look at that. He just, this Thing walking down the hall, this roundish golem. Oh, man. He's him and Superman are my two favorites. Like I said, he is the original Pinocchio. And I was probably talking about this comic when I came up with the term. That, for those of you who don't know, I came up with this idea of Pinocchio. Pinocchio is a non-human character that wants to be human. And because of that, they're the most human of the team or the comic. So he is the cornerstone of the Fantastic Four, pun intended. He is the heart and soul. They're all kind. Reed Richards is a very compassionate and kind. They're all kind. Johnny Storm's kind of the arrogant hothead, pun intended. But he wants to be human so bad that he's like, you know, not only does he have armor around his body, but he has like armor around his. You insult him, he pretends it doesn't hurt. So that's why he goes off with Johnny Storm, hurts his feelings, because he could finally let loose this pain and suffering in his heart. So I just love this character so much. And there you go. There's this Claw. I use this as like, not only did I like draw this over and over as a kid, but I just use this as like a template for like the superheroic form. Such Kirby design, and I just love it. George Perez is drawing the Kirby crackle coming from the sonic energy, the sonic claw. What does he say there? You sure ain't gotten any prettier since the last time we tangled back in FF 119. Claw. Okay, Pacific Comics, the collector's best friend. You see, I wasn't smart enough to realize I probably could have wrote to these guys and got back issues. I was a dumb kid. And here's Joe Welder. You send him $7.99, and he comes to your house wearing these Speedos and just flexes. So there you go. I know Paul would be interested in that. Okay, so here he is, my Sonic Claw. Zzz, and he smacks Ben Grimm, and then this confused me as a kid because I thought this was Claw jumping on him. Like, wait a minute, he has a fist. But he created like energy creations, not contraptions. Why can't I think of the word? I'll just say energy creations, and boom, right between the legs, cheap shot. Right, hit him right. Hit him right in the jingle bells there. So then he vaporizes the construct. That was the word I was looking for. So he vaporizes it. And Ben Grimm's like, why I don't care. Put your creepy Crimson Dukes up and let's get this over quick. Like, and he goes, it will end indeed. Remember I said there was a guy with green legs? But not in the way you intended it. You! Who is it? The Molecule Man. And of course, I didn't know who Molecule Man or the Claw was, but I went by that reaction to realize that he was a bad dude. And here he is, he turns the thing into glass. He controls all molecules. This is another Jack Kirby Stan Lee creation. I forget the original Molecule Man, but he was this mousy guy and got this incredible powers to control molecules. And he has this wand. And then I love the lightning face, and his lips are all cut up. So at the time, I thought these two were a team. You know, I just thought they were like, you know, hanging out together. It's honest to goodness villain team, but I love that. Just something cool about them transformed into glass, and they're just gloating. Eat the thing. So here he is moping. You know, that sad trombone sound. And she's you chastise yourself needlessly, Mr. Rich. A man is not measured by the physical limitation of... I remember the speech like almost word to word. A man is not measured by his physical limitations, by the limits of his mind. When you lost your ability to stretch, did you also lose your capacity to think? No, I suppose not. Then by the stars, why aren't you putting your brain to use? Little flash of anger. Next page, he punches an old lady. I've seen this ad a few times. You know, I've been going to this well a lot of this time period. So here he is, the molecule man's lifting the glass thing. This is the device I told you about, my friend, the psi amplifier. Perhaps it doesn't look like much, but looks could be deceiving. Okay, he fought the Hulk in Giant Size Superstars #1. I don't know if I have that or not. But here comes the Human Torch, just comes blasting in. Don't mean to interrupt, old buddy, but the story was just getting in. The Human Torch? I mean, why is he surprised? He's invading the Fantastic Four headquarters, of course. So you fly blindly to your doom, young fool. And then just as I could turn him into glass, water. And I always remember that Kirby crackle hitting that. And here he is. Getting hard for me to breathe. I mean, I imagine it would be getting hard to breathe. You're underwater. Starting to lose consciousness. And then... I must be growing soft, Claw. The boy's still breathing. We could slay him afterwards, my friend. You know, because they're supervillains. Why kill him right away? Our greatest priority now is the psi amplifier. They could kill him as they're saying that. And then, boom. Getting punched. A molecule man battered by some unseen force. It could only be the invisible girl. So he holds out his psi claw and does like basically a sonic. He still be heard. By the sonic claw could track the sound of her heart. Lub dub, lub dub, lub dub. There she is. And then puts these sounds, like solidified sound bands. What are you doing? Like solidified sound. And then blast. Here's Reed Richards. He rolled his sleeves up. He goes, Molecule Man, if you lay one perverted finger on my wife, my next shot will disintegrate you. And here they are contemplating their act. Oh, Reed, stay back. Without their stretching powers, you haven't a chance. Huh? It's a good thing, yeah, you kept your mouth shut there, Sue. Because these guys were scared for a second. So the illustrious Fantastic Four is not nearly so fantastic anymore. And then he does this and transform the gun into helium. And then Claw uses sonic powers and drives him batty, and he passes out. No nose. How does he smell, you might ask? Awful. So now he's, of course, the obligatory his origin. So, as detailed in issue 20 of the late lamented Kazar mag. Kazar was the Marvel version of Tarzan, and he was an original Golden Age character that they brought back in the pages of the X-Men. And I gotta say, I reread a lot of Kazars, and they're really good. Kazar beat Thanos, so basically Tarzan beat Thanos. So he got thrown into the Nexus of all worlds. This is the Man-Thing. The Man-Thing is Marvel's version of Swamp Thing. But also, they didn't rip off Swamp Thing. All of these vegetable creatures, these swamp creatures, there was one from the 40s called the Heap. So DC copied the Heap, Marvel copied the Heap. So Swamp Thing and Man-Thing, you know, they're both dipping into the same source. So as he's in the mud, he finds this wand, and the wand tries to take over his brain, and it can't because he's not made of molecules. He's made of solidified energy. And there's the Molecule Man imprisoned in the wand since Iron Man Annual #3. I love these little text boxes at the bottom. It just shows you that the Marvel Universe was one cohesive whole. They don't do that too much anymore, but then again, it's not a cohesive whole anymore either. So he flies over and then finds this bum. There you go, bum. And boom, friends of old Marvel. If you ever saw the, I think it's the Jessica Jones series, Patsy Walker was her friend. Well, this is her as Hellcat. Subscribe to the stars. Here comes Daredevil. There's the letters page. Oh my lord! Kurt Busiek. He wrote a letter in my very first Marvel comic. He's the author of Astro City and creator of the Thunderbolts, which I think is going to be a Marvel movie, the Thunderbolts. I don't want to spoil it then. Beppe Sabatini. Meredith Robbins. Wow. Kurt Busiek. That's funny. So, long-time Marvel fan. Grows up to be a Marvel writer. Impossible not to be super. Instantly, your muscles will begin to grow. Yeah. Matter of fact, your muscles start growing like seconds after you mail the letter. So here's Claw. He lands to this well-dressed bum. Sweet mother of mercy. He shows him the rod, and the Molecule Man's will overrides his, and he becomes the Molecule Man. The original Molecule Man, if I remember, he was like an atomic scientist who got like in a feedback of an experiment gone awry, and got the ultimate power to control the molecules. And in this, I intend to remain among the living. As a matter of minutes, your husband's own psi amplifier will transfer my conscience permanently from my wand into this body. And at that moment, the Molecule Man will be unbeatable. And then we'll be powerless to stop him. Pop. That sound, can it be? But it is. It most certainly is. Qua voom. Qua voom. That's when you know it's serious. She throws up a force field. Who? And the Impossible Man. You know, you got the jump on me when and I find it embarrassing. Because when you embarrass me, you embarrass the entire population of the proud planet Pop-Up. There's only one being on Pop-Up. They're all like clones of each other, and they could merge and split off like amoebas. Because so either you so-called gentlemen are going to apologize, or you're going to be very, very sorry. Remember, he controls his molecules, so he can make his fist very dense and stuff like that. He's super powerful, even though he looks like a goof. So here he is. Well, she's putting up the force field because the thing is glass. All of a sudden, I guess his pants are turning back to normal, which kind of makes sense in a way. Reed Richards invented things called unstable molecules, and that's what their costumes are made out of. It's just a way to explain why does the Human Torch's uniform not burn up. How come her costume turns invisible with her and Reed's? Because these molecules are in a constant state of flux, and that's what he uses to make their costumes. So maybe it's not a coloring error. Maybe his costume is transforming back. There, that would have got me a no prize if I was smart enough as a kid and mailed this. The no prize was you explain an error in the comic and you explain why it's not an error, and you win a no prize. I want my no prize retroactively. So now they're arguing, and nobody attacks the Molecule Man and lives to brag about it. So he does a direct molecular attack on a being who could control his own molecules. What do you think's going to happen? Well, I'll tell you. Oh, should I turn the page? No. Huh? So you disintegrated the fool. Well, Claude, that would have been merciful. I merely transformed him into a child's block, as befits his childlike intelligence. So now he's taken the wand, and now he's going to turn it to sand, and boom! Pop. Whenever he transforms, you get that pop noise. Every molecule, you can control everybody's molecules except for mine. I control mine. And then the Molecule can't defeat you, Gremlin, and my Sonic Claw has already flattened you once. Last issue. Yes, the last issue you actually saw the Molecule Man get beat up. So pop, he takes his ears away. My body's made of non-conductive material, and now I have no ears. So he keeps having solutions to their powers. And then there's Reed crawling on the ground. So he makes that another Sonic Devil to fight him. And one of my solid sound generations will keep the imp occupied until we have completed our task. Because that's fascinating. That sounds like fun, that Sonic Claw. So pop, he makes one. Again, he has whatever power is needed. And he's like childlike, otherwise he could take over the universe. And pop, he makes a Sonic Claw. So whenever they happen, no, you don't understand what you're doing. You must dissolve your creation before it's too late. And the two sonic elements hit, and they make a sonic boom, and knocks out Claw. See, that the way it's drawn there, the perspective's a little off. So he could almost be like running and laying on the ground compared to her. So, but he's supposed to be unconscious, laying on the ground, and there's her behind her force field. He's just like, oh, Claw's defeated, but the witless fool has served his purpose. and he's going to go into the psi amplifier to have the wand bond with him. Star-Lord. Okay, I'm glad this popped up. Weird World. I forget what video or when I talked about I said Ringworld was what got me into Lord of the Rings. I meant Weird World. So Marvel premiere Weird World, and it's a blatant Tolkien ripoff. These elf-like creatures are going around this fantasy world with dragons, and they had a black riders or dark riders they called them, that were ripoffs of the Nazgul and everything. And it jumped from comic to comic, so it was hard to find. So whenever I found it, I was reading it out of order, and I still have never read the entire. So that's one thing I'm going to do, is get all the Weird World comics, put them in order, and read them. Okay, I could feel my power draining. I mean, not draining, stabilizing his whatever gobbledygook. So he's getting powerful, and all of a sudden, what? And he passes out. So Reed, he used his mind to. He didn't need no stretching powers to defeat the Molecule Man. He reversed the flow of the neutron. He reversed the polarity of the neutron flow. Any Doctor Who fans, if you could name the Doctor that was his catchphrase, I'll mail you a handshake. So that, of course, restores the Thing. You look much prettier that way. Shut up. He goes, no, old friend, though we were all close, the power of the Molecule Man through this wand, the power that he had through this wand, huh? I think I'll take it to the chem lab for... No, Reed, no, you mustn't touch that. And Reed Richards is now the Molecule Man. See, he's just going through a down period right here. It's surprising that I love Reed Richards so much, considering this is my first introduction to him. I mean, I've seen him around in cartoons, stuff like that as kids, but this is the first time I read about him. Like, he sulks, and then he becomes the Molecule Man. And this was... Oh, God, I don't even know how many years this was a cliffhanger until I got a Rampage of Reed Richards, until I got the second issue. There you go, the Molecule Man reigns supreme. Toy soldiers. That. So you go. This Orca. Richard Harris and Charlotte Rampling. So you go. This is my very first comic. I love this. I understood about 50% of this. You know, who's Agatha Harkness? Where did the Impossible Man come from? But I just read it. I read it over and over and over again, and then Fantastic Four, my favorite super team, my favorite comic of all time, without a doubt. Just I have so much emotional investment in this comic. I just love it. I don't even know what else to say about this. This to me is the height of comic books. It's silly, it's hokey, you know, but they took it seriously, you know, at the same time. So much was... Look how much happened in this one comic. I keep threatening to bring out a current Marvel comic and show you just how little happens. What's going on now is a lot of... They call it writing for the trade. And the trade paperback generally collects 6 issues. So this was like a 3-part story, but there was subplots. And the last issue they were fighting the Salem 7, but Claw showed up and made a little appearance to set up this issue, and then this issue has the Molecule Man set up for the next issue. So so much happens, but you could still pick up, like, obviously I picked up in the middle and still followed it and still loved it. But nowadays, if they call it decompression, they'll take one issue's worth of stories and spread it out over 6 issues so they could sell a trade paperback for it. You know, a lot of padding, a lot of fluff, and paradoxically, not a lot is going on because it's really only one issue. So it's a lot of sitting around, talking, drinking tea, you know, looking out the window. Whereas, you know, you saw them walking around their headquarters doing nothing, but it was like a page or two, and that was really all that's needed. It's fantastic. Well, comic books are a visual medium. There's a famous Black Widow and Daredevil are just discussing the nature of their relationship. Heady, emotional stuff. What are they doing as they're doing this? Well, in a modern Marvel comic, they'd be sitting in a coffee shop out of costume, putting sugar into their tea, sipping tea. But they were discussing their relationship. Do they want to get married? If they do get married, do they want to have children? What does the future bring? Really serious emotional stuff. What are they doing? They're flipping on flagpoles, doing cartwheels in the air over Manhattan. They're both in costumes, swinging. I think Daredevil spots a mugging going on and throws his billy club and knocks the mugger down. But that's comic books. It's adventure, and the special effects budget is limited by your imagination. So I just don't understand what's going on. But you got me ranting. I got myself ranting. But this is comic books at its best. If you don't like this comic book, then I don't know what to tell you. It's wonderful. It's fun. It's hokey, and it's hokey. It's childish. It's everything in the best possible description of these terms. But this is it. This is comic books. This is it. You can't get any better. Actually, the Thor comics from 160 to 170 is probably the 10 best issues in a row of any comics. That's Jack Kirby and Stan Lee. But what are you gonna do? Arguably, that Stan Lee Jack Kirby Thor is probably the best, and the Stan Lee Jack Kirby Fantastic Four is the best. You catch me on any other day, and I'll change my opinion. But here you go. This is the 1970s Marvel Comics at the height of its powers. Thanks for watching. I could go on for another 40 minutes talking about this, but I don't want to waste your time. And thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Please subscribe. My subs count seems to be getting a little stagnant right now. Thanks a lot, everybody. See ya. Bye bye.